Hey guys, welcome back to 90 Feet From Home. I'm your host Ashley, and this is another weekly lingo lesson. Now this one was in particularly high demand on Twitter, and I'm gonna confess that before people asked me to explain it, I actually had never heard this phrase before. So this one was new to me, and I hope if it's new to you, this episode helps explain it. Today we are going to be talking about TINSTAAPP, which is a lot of A's and a lot of P's at the end. It's TINSTAAPP, TINSTAAPP. And what it stands for is, there is no such thing as a pitching prospect. It is a mouthful, and it is kind of a strange thing to suggest because in the literal sense, there are absolutely pitching prospects. I would say arguably about a third or a half of all prospects going into an amateur draft are all pitching prospects. So a little bit on what a prospect is. A prospect is considered anybody playing in the minor leagues who has not yet exceeded their rookie limitation, meaning that they are still a rookie level or below. Typically a prospect is somebody who hasn't spent very much or any time at the major league level. Usually they'll be in the very low class A, AA, that kind of thing, potentially all the way up to a AAA. Now, when referring to it in writing, prospects are generally considered to be the most highly anticipated of these young up-and-comers, although the term prospect itself can actually apply to anybody who's in the minor league system. The only reason that we use it more so for players who are likely to come up to the majors is because their prospects look better than anybody else's. So the idea that there's no such thing as a pitching prospect is obviously incorrect on a literal level. There are lots of pitchers in the minor leagues, and some of them are considered very highly as prospects who are going to make it at a major league level. For example, the Detroit Tigers have a young pitcher who's currently in their Class A system named Casey Mize, who everyone is eagerly anticipating coming up to the major league level because they believe he'll be ready for that role very soon. What TINSTAAPP really means is there's a lot of risk associated with picking a pitching prospect when you're going into that amateur draft. The idea being that most pitchers who are prospects don't pan out and don't make it to the major league level. What's funny about this is that really only about 12% of any prospects make it to the major league level, be they pitchers or position players. Really, it is a gamble either way, whether or not you pick a pitcher or pick a position player in the draft. TINSTAAPP, which was coined by Baseball Prospectus founder Gary Huckabee. I'm gonna pronounce Huckabee? It looks like Huckabee. And I'm so sorry, Gary, if you ever watched this and I got that wrong. But he coined the term, and it was basically to kind of summarize the idea that there's no such thing as a free lunch, or that nothing is a given. And the idea being that most teams would probably benefit from focusing more on highly ranked position players as opposed to pitchers, because position players more often than not make it to that major league level. Now, like I said, the term isn't literal, because if we actually look at the last 20 years of amateur draft classes, 8 of those drafts were pitchers taken in the first round. And of those 8 pitchers in the last 20 years, 3 have actually been all-stars: Garrett Cole, David Price, and Steven Strasburg. And David Price actually won the Cy Young Award. So to say that pitching prospects don't shake out, or that it's not worth it to draft pitchers that early in the draft, it's kind of inaccurate, because pitchers do make it just as often as position players do. Mainly the idea of TINSTAAPP is that scouts looking at players to be drafted by the team in the amateur draft may want to lean towards picking a position player, you know, like a catcher or a shortstop, as opposed to pinning all their hopes on a pitcher. That one was new to me, and I hope you enjoyed the explanation. So if you ever see TINSTAAPP come up in an article, use a grain of salt when seeing how they're using it, because if they're taking it really literally and saying, you know, oh, TINSTAAPP, you shouldn't be using pitchers, or you shouldn't be drafting pitchers, you know that the numbers kind of skew towards that being inaccurate. And I think most people professionally in baseball understand that sometimes you just gotta pick the pitcher if they're gonna be good, or you think that there's a chance that they'll be the next big thing. So this has been another lingo lesson. I'm Ashley. Remember to hit that subscribe button down below, and if you want to be notified every time a new episode comes out, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, be sure to ring that bell. Remember that you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 90 Feet From Home. And if there are specific terms like this that have come up and you'd like to see an episode on them, please let me know and I will do an episode on anything that you guys suggest. You can also leave a comment down below. And remember, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, because I appreciate the positive response. So thanks for coming out for another lingo lesson. Have a great day. Bye.